Alright, Guerlain's men's fragrances in their signature collection are getting a facelift. All of the men's fragrances are moving into bottles that look like the L'Homme Ideal bottles like this. So they just announced Habit Rouge L'Instinct. I did a video on that fragrance, that's the anticipation video recently. If you haven't caught that, go catch it. But I thought I'd put together a video of my favorite men's fragrances from the Guerlain house in their signature lineup. And I've been wanting to do this video, so better late than never to do it now, especially since they are getting a facelift. So find out about my top 12 Guerlain men's fragrances coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yes, today I'm talking about Guerlain, the House of Guerlain. Is it a niche? Is it a designer? I usually put this, house in the designer category. But, it doesn't matter. I don't want to get into the technicalities of niche or designer. Fragrance is fragrance. And this is a great house. I enjoy this house. Although, there are some not so great fragrances, which is typical. Any house will have those, especially if you're a human being, you're not going to like everything. But they do have some great fragrances, and yes, they are getting that facelift. All their bottles are changing over. And at the end of this video, I'm also going to let you know what are sold here in this country on the Guerlain website officially, and also what's sold in France or outside of this country here, the USA, as they are different fragrances. And some fragrances that I've spoken about in the past are no longer around either. They're not on the official Guerlain French website. So I'm going to let you know what these fragrances are ranked today. But before I get to the fragrances, if this is your first time tuning into this channel and you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do click the subscribe button below. And also please click the bell icon so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. Do want to let you know this is all kind of taking a long time, but I do have some major announcements coming up and a really, really big, huge giveaway I'm doing. So please make sure you're subscribed, and please make sure you're subscribed publicly, and also please make sure to be participating and commenting on these videos that I'm airing. But let's move on to the list. Before I give you the countdown or the top 12 list, like I said, if you haven't caught that video on Habit Rouge L'Instinct, this will be a new flanker in the collection of Habit Rouge fragrances. They've had multiple flankers in the past, but this new one, L'Instinct, is an eau de toilette intense concentration, and it features notes of leather, hemp, mate, rose, patchouli, vanilla. It sounds like it's going to be completely different, and also there was that distinction between mate versus absinthe. Some databases said mate, some said absinthe, so we'll see which it is. I'm hoping it's absinthe because I do like fragrances that feature absinthe because it has that kind of green booziness. Mate, on the other hand, is grassy, earthy greenness, so we'll see how it is, but I'm excited for this new launch. I'm also kind of excited for the uniform bottles. They've gone through so many bottle changes in the past. Now they're all going to be uniform. They're going to match the L'Homme Ideal collection of fragrances, as I was saying. And speaking of L'Homme Ideal collection, the first fragrance I'm going to talk to you about today at number 12 is L'Homme Ideal EDP Intense. L'Intense is the fragrance. Let me find my bottle here. So this went through a facelift. It used to be an all-black bottle. Now it's in an all-clear bottle, but now it's also changing again to a new particular bottle design and look. I think the label looks different. Everything is going to be uniform and kind of like, cohesive. They're not going to be all different looks and things like that, designs and things like that. So L'Homme Ideal EDP L'Intense was launched in 2018. It's a Terry Wasser creation. I would call this a warm, spicy, vanillic, smoky fragrance with almonds, leather, chili pepper, cardamom, smoked tonka beans, vanilla, sandalwood. So basically taking that original L'Homme Ideal that came out, gosh, when did this come out? 2014, I think it came out, or 2015, somewhere around there. And they've updated it with that smokiness and the spiciness from that chili. I think it's okay, but it's my least favorite. Well, not necessarily my least favorite flanker in this series. The Sport used to be my least favorite, but the Sport is discontinued, so this one ends up being there. But if you like the idea of smokiness and chili, definitely check out the L'Homme Ideal EDP L'Intense version or flanker from this series. So moving on to a fragrance called Guerlain Homme. So I was looking up this fragrance and it seemed like it had an eau de toilette version and various different concentrations and flankers, and then everything got dropped and then they created an EDP version of it. So I have that at number 11. Not L'Homme, but it's Homme EDP, and this particular fragrance is selling in the States, I believe. I'll have to get to that list at the end because I have some notes written down. But this particular fragrance, it's kind of boozy and very limey, but it's a creation first launched in the original concentration in Eau de Toilette in 2009, and then this EDP version came out in 2016. Created by Terry Wasser, it's a green, citrusy, aromatic, woody fragrance with lime, mint, vetiver, rum, cedar, patchouli, floral notes. I much preferred the flanker of this particular series called L'Homme Boisé, I think that's what it's called, Homme Boisé. Something like that. Well, actually, it's here. Let's see. L'Eau Boisée is what it's called. It's they took the vetiver that's in here and amplified it, but sadly that's discontinued. So that's why the Homme EDP is kind of in the bottom. I like it. It's a little boozy. It's a little citrusy and woody as well. But for me, it's not one of my all-time favorites. And anyway, I am ranking it here because this is all 12 of the fragrances in the men's line of fragrances that's currently on the French website. So it's a top 12 list, as I said. And Homme EDP is at number 11. All right, at number 10, it's Guerlain's L'Instant de Guerlain pour Homme in the Eau de Toilette concentration, which originally it was launched in 2004 and then relaunched in this bottle in 2016 because the bottles were different. And if you guys have been following me for years and years and years, even on my previous channel, you know that the reason I started doing videos was of L'Instant de Guerlain pour Homme Eau Extrême in the original bottle, because I got into a Uber here in San Francisco on Thanksgiving Day, and the Uber driver, it was like way back when Ubers were like black cars. So it was very, very, you know, luxury kind of a ride at that time. And the Uber driver was wearing that L'Instant de Guerlain pour Homme Extreme, and it was like love at first sniff. So in the Pour Homme Eau de Toilette, well, first of all, it's created by Beatrice Piquet, who I don't know who she is, but she created a masterpiece, not in the Eau de Toilette, but in the original, not original, but the Eau de Parfum Eau Extrême. But this I would call a woody, citrusy, warm, spicy fragrance, and it has notes of cacao, lemon, bergamot, patchouli, anise, grapefruit, sandalwood tea. If you've ever compared the Eau de Toilette to the Eau de Parfum, the Eau de Toilette is a lot fresher, so it's easier to wear when it's warm outside and in the summertime, because you have those warm notes of the cacao and things like that, but it doesn't act very, very heavy, whereas the Eau Extrême, or in this case now, the Eau de Parfum, does get a lot warmer and deeper and richer, so it might make it for a little difficult to wear. So if you like a spicy, chocolatey, star anise, boozy kind of fragrance, definitely check this one out. I think it's a great fragrance, and you know what? I had dissed this particular series of fragrances when they redid it and took them out of their original bottles, but I've circled back to enjoying them because nobody's ever made a fragrance like this or to smell like this, so I really do love this particular DNA of Guerlain's fragrances. The Eau de Parfum will be coming up, but Lige Pour Homme Eau de Toilette is at number 10. So at number 9, going to the fragrance L'Homme Idéal, the original from 2014. Yes, it came out in 2014. And this particular fragrance I would call a woody aromatic fragrance, and it's created by Terry Wasser. And I would call this more of like a sweet almondy woody aromatic fragrance with loads of almonds and tonka beans with leather, vetiver, cedar, citruses, rosemary, orange blossom. So it has aromatic touches and citruses and floral touches, citrus floral touches. So it does have a citrusy start to the fragrance. Eventually it becomes woody and also leathery in the dry down. You know, it's a pleasant scent. I've never ranked this as one of my all-time favorite fragrances. It smells pretty darn good if you like almondy fragrances. L'Homme Idéal, the original in Eau de Toilette, is at number 9. Now, moving on to another fragrance in the series, this is L'Homme Idéal EDP. Somehow it's ended up here. It used to be a favorite of mine. I really, really loved it. I've kind of gotten bored of it, so it's ended up at the bottom. But there are other great fragrances in the house of Guerlain. So L'Homme Idéal EDP came out in 2016, and once again is created by Terry Wasser, and according to my research, along with Delphine Jelk. Delphine Jelk has made the new L'Instinct, the Habit Rouge L'Instinct. Now this one, in comparison to the Eau de Toilette, has gotten sweeter, and they've created kind of like an almondy, almost like a liqueur kind of a thing, more fruity than liqueur, but it's a sweet, fruity, amber, woody fragrance with almonds, cherries, leather, tonka beans, vanilla, sandalwood, spices, incense, rose, and bergamot. This I would call something more of like a gourmand take on the original, whereas the original is more of a woody aromatic with that nuttiness. This one kind of goes closer to being a more of a gourmand experience, especially since it has all these kind of like fruity kind of notes in here, vanilla kind of notes to create more of a gourmand type of experience. It's a delicious fragrance. I don't hate it, but it's kind of slipped towards the bottom of the list. L'Homme Ideal in Eau de Parfum at number 8. Alright, at number 7, moving on to the fragrance Heritage in Eau de Parfum concentration. So I've done a video a long time ago comparing Heritage in Eau de Toilette and Heritage in Eau de Parfum. I felt like Eau de Toilette and Eau de Parfum, there was definitely a difference, and I felt like the Eau de Parfum version was a lot more subdued. It could be that it was longer lasting, but I didn't experience that myself. It just felt like it was a subdued experience of the original. Doesn't reach out too far. But it came out in 1992, same year as the Eau de Toilette. I guess they launched both versions in the same year, and typically they launch a higher concentration later, or even if it's a high concentration launch, if they ever launch a lower concentration, it would come out later. But these came out in the same year. But both of the fragrances in EDP and EDT were created by Jean-Paul Guerlain, a Guerlain family person until, you know, Terry Wasser took over. But this Heritage in EDP is a woody, aromatic, warm, spicy fragrance, and it does feature patchouli, amber, sandalwood, lavender, oak moss, juniper berries, and carnation. I would say that this is a kind of a warm amber fougere style of fragrance. It doesn't necessarily go full-on fougere experience, but it's there. But it also is amped up patchouli. Both versions do have it, but when it comes to the Heritage and EDP, it definitely has more of a warm amber experience in compared to the EDT. But for some reason, as I said, I do prefer the Eau de Toilette myself to this day. So anyway, Heritage in Eau de Parfum at number 7. And then I recently did a video on the Habit Rouge fragrances. I have put Habit Rouge in Eau de Parfum at number 6, and in that video I mentioned I have now switched things around. I much prefer the Eau de Toilette all of a sudden. For some reason, this new bottle that I have here is smelling so great, and I absolutely love that fragrance, so I featured that at higher up on the list. But the Eau de Parfum is really, really great. I do enjoy the Eau de Parfum as well. The Eau de Parfum and Habit Rouge came out in 2003, whereas the original came out in the 60s, I believe. But both of them were created by Jean-Paul Guerlain. It's a warm, spicy, citrusy, amber floral fragrance with lemons, rose, vanilla, carnation, leather, rosewood, benzoin, sandalwood, bergamot, orange, patchouli, amber. There's a lot of notes credited here. It's interesting also in the past, in the old days, they used to list a lot of notes. Nowadays, they're kind of not doing that. Well, sometimes they'll put one top note and one heart note and one base note, which kind of becomes like, okay, what is really in this fragrance? I like the way it smells. I'd like to dig in so that I can find out what I'm smelling, and I can look for other fragrances similarly. But going back to this particular fragrance, I think it's a classy fragrance. It could be that it is kind of like Guerlain's answer to a male version of Shalimar. You know, it's kind of warm, spicy, but definitely there's a rosy presence here and a citrusy presence. And in comparing this Eau de Parfum to the Eau de Toilette, there's definitely more of a freshness with the Eau de Toilette. And I don't experience the same thing with the Habit Rouge series of fragrances that I do with the Heritage series of fragrances. They both have definitely great projection. It doesn't have a subdued experience, but for some reason the Eau de Toilette lately is smelling really, really great, and that's why the EDP is here at number 6. So Habit Rouge and Eau de Parfum is at number 6. Moving on to a classic, awesome men's fragrance from this house. Definitely one everybody probably has worn at one time if they like this note. It's Vetiver, originally launched in 1959. And redone in 2000. And yeah, my dad used to wear this in the 70s. I actually started wearing it probably in the late 90s. Somewhere, you know, towards the latter part of the 90s. But it's a great vetiver fragrance created by Jean-Paul Guerlain. It's an earthy, citrusy, aromatic, woody fragrance and features notes of vetiver, bergamot, tobacco, lemons, oak moss, nutmeg, pepper, leather, myrrh, neroli. A lot of stuff going on in here, but for me, it's definitely a very, very earthy take on vetiver. And you've got the grassiness there, the earthiness, and then of course there's woodiness here as well. But comes off very aromatic, lots of aromatics here. It does definitely definitely have a contrast of citruses. You experience it. It's a nice, you know, contrast of the juicy, citrusy touches with the grassy, earthy, woody touches of the vetiver, but along the way you get some spices in there, and eventually has a kind of a resinous, leathery dry down. It's a great smell. It reminds me of my dad for some reason because he wore it. Anyway, Vetiver from the House of Guerlain at number 5. And then Habit Rouge Eau de Toilette at number 4. As I said, Habit Rouge and the Eau de Toilette is smelling so good to me, so good. And in comparison to the Eau de Parfum, Habit Rouge and Eau de Toilette definitely has more of a amped up citrusy touch, so it's not as warm and ambery as the Eau de Parfum is, or deep and rich, because the citruses in here are definitely amped up. The original Habit Rouge came out in '65. They did redo it in 2003 when they but when they launched the Eau de Parfum version, according to my research online. Once again, it's created by Jean-Paul Guerlain. It's a warm, spicy, citrusy, amber floral fragrance with lemons, rosewood, rose, carnation, vanilla, orange, bergamot, sandalwood, leather, amber, benzoin, and patchouli. It's a great, classic, historic fragrance that I will always have in my collection. Love this stuff. Definitely a great fragrance. Check it out. It's, like I said, I was saying, it's kind of like the male version of Guerlain's very popular Shalimar. You know, maybe it might remind you of one another. It's definitely its own unique thing, but definitely the usage of vanilla might do that. So Habit Rouge and Eau de Toilette at number 4. Alright, moving on to number 3. It's L'Instant de Guerlain pour Homme in Eau de Parfum. And remember, I was saying earlier, it used to be called L'Instant de Guerlain pour Homme Eau Extrême, and back in the day we used to call this Lidge because it's such a long ass name. Once again, this is created by Beatrice Piquet, but I believe the original in Eau de Toilette was 2003. This version was came out in 2005 in the original bottle. Then they put it in this bottle in 2015. But along the way they did something different to it while it was in its original bottle too. But I was obsessed with this fragrance. It's one of my favorites because it's got loads of patchouli. Plus it's got licorice. There's an anise or star anise type note in here that I absolutely love this note. It's a kind of a spice that I grew up with. So it's definitely prominent here. Then you've got some, what else do you have? You have some citruses in here and cacao, the chocolatiness. So all of it was a really gorgeous combination of notes and very intoxicating, and also great trail because, like I said, when I was getting into that Uber, I smelled that fragrance and then I dreamt about it all night long because I said, you know what, I gotta get my hands on this fragrance. But here it is at number 3. It's a woody, warm, spicy patchouli fragrance with patchouli, cacao, star anise, sandalwood, bergamot, tea, and lemon. There's definitely something cozy and soft and soothing in this particular fragrance as well. I think the sandalwood in here takes on a kind of a creaminess, and when you combine it with tea, there's definitely that presence of this coziness in here, which I really love. And I think it's a great smelling fragrance. Yes, at one time I thought, you know what, they've reformulated it, it's no longer similar to the original, but I've never seen a fragrance come out that is kind of similar to this, so I'm adding it here at number 3 because I still do enjoy the kind of smell this is. So L'Instant de Guerlain pour Homme, EDP at number 3. And then at number 2, it's Heritage in Eau de Toilette. And the Heritage in Eau de Toilette is absolutely very classy masculine offering. It's that warm amber fougere style fragrance, kind of with the spices and the woods, and of course the patchouli that I'm obsessed with in this particular fragrance. As I was saying earlier, both Heritage and EDT and EDP were launched in 1992. This is a 1992 fragrance and it's created by Jean-Paul Guerlain. It's a woody, aromatic, warm, spicy fragrance, and it features patchouli, sandalwood, lavender, geranium, juniper berries, amber, and oak moss. It's absolutely great. It has a great trail. It smells sexy, it's classy. It might be a little mature for younger noses, but if you like patchouli and ambery touches with aromatics thrown in, definitely get your nose on Heritage in EDT. A great fragrance, still to this day, absolutely love it, and it's at number 2. And my number 1 favorite fragrance now from Guerlain in the Signature Collection is definitely L'Homme Ideal in the extreme version. Sadly, this particular version is not made it here as an official release, so it's a little difficult to get, but I absolutely love this version. It's an Eau de Parfum concentration, and you know, this used to be a favorite of mine in the original Eau de Parfum, but now I'm obsessed with this because it has gourmand touches, but also boozy, tobacco-ish touches as well. This came out in 2020. Terry Wasser is the creator of this, or the perfumer of this fragrance. It's fruity, sweet, and nutty nutty tobacco fragrance, and it does feature the almonds once again, but it also has plums, tobacco, leather, pink pepper, patchouli, and I think it's the plums in this that acts like a fruity booziness in here. Not an overly boozy fragrance experience, but definitely has a booziness, but a little fruity, and it's a nice contrast to the tobacco, the little ashy tobacco. Not necessarily overly dirty tobacco either, because it could be also like the leafy tobacco presence in addition to like a burnt ashy tobacco experience. But definitely has the leather, and it's a little ambery, but smells delicious. It is my number one. It was a little complicated to decide between this or Heritage. I put this in here because it's a little more modern, and I think modern noses will like this a little more than Heritage in general, but of course I love classic fragrances, and Heritage is definitely number two. This is a great list. This has definitely gone through, I went through it over and over again to make sure this is definitely sticking, this particular list, and I feel like this list is perfect. But either way, that's all the fragrances. That's the top 12 list of fragrances. But let me tell you which ones are available here in the States officially, and then which ones are not. But if you are in France, all of the fragrances in this top 12 list are available in France on the French Guerlain website. But on the Guerlain USA website, you'll find L'Homme Ideal in EDT, L'Homme Ideal in EDP, L'Homme Ideal in the Intense EDP version. So in that collection, only 3. Habit Rouge EDT and Habit Rouge EDP, Vetiver, Homme, Heritage EDP, L'Instant de Guerlain pour Homme EDT, and L'Instant de Guerlain pour Homme EDP. And a lot of other fragrances have been discontinued. It's completely removed off of the Guerlain websites, which I'll tell you what they are after the outro. But let me know your thoughts on these fragrances. Are you excited for the new bottle changes? Does that sound exciting to you? They're all going to be uniform bottles now, which makes sense because although I kind of liked some changes, but now they're putting them all very, very similar. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on these bottle changes and the looks and designs, the new Instinct Habit Rouge that's coming out, and also what you think about this list and how would you rank this list if you put it together. Either way, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please do list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. So real quickly, let me tell you about some of the discontinued fragrances. Of course, I did mention this, but Guerlain's L'Homme L'Eau Boisée is a great version of the Homme. Not L'Homme, but Homme. I much prefer the L'Homme L'Eau Boisée over Homme because that Vetiver in here was amped up, and it was kind of like a unique take on a Vetiver in contrast to their original Vetiver fragrance, and now they had gone into kind of a lightly boozy direction. So that is discontinued. Guerlain Habit Rouge L'Eau is also no longer to be found, but I think that was discontinued quite a while ago, so I'm not too worried about that one because it wasn't one of my all-time favorites. But here is one that I am disappointed about. I wish I had a backup bottle. I do not. This is Guerlain's Vetiver Extreme. You know, they're very close to one another, but there is a little bit of something boozy green in this particular Vetiver Extreme in comparison to the original Vetiver. So that's no longer selling anywhere. If you can find a backup bottle, definitely get it. And in that video for Habit Rouge L'Instinct, I did discuss dress code, Habit Rouge dress code. That's no longer anywhere either, and I think I mentioned that they had done it up to about 2018 or 2019, different versions or different bottle versions of dress code, and it's now gone. But a couple more fragrances. L'Homme Ideal Cool. This is all I have left. Should I get another bottle? You know, I like this fragrance. I like it, yeah. It's a very fresh wear. It goes down very easily. It's perfect for summer, and I think I like that a lot. That's no longer on any of the Guerlain websites, but I don't know, maybe it's still selling somewhere else. And of course, Guerlain's L'Homme Ideal Sport is also no longer anywhere else as well. And anyway, those are the fragrances I have for you that are no longer, but as of late, there could have been other discontinuations several years back, but this is what I have in my collection that I no longer see on Guerlain's website. So thanks so much for tuning in. Let me know what your thoughts are on these discontinuations, and if you are fans of those fragrances that are no longer selling. I'd like to find out if you are planning on buying any backup bottles or you already have some. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for tuning in today. Have a good one. Bye-bye.